As the world continues to grapple with the fallout of Trump's so-called Liberation Day, the Taoiseach said there's no justification for 20% tariffs on imports from across the EU. Despite the seemingly cordial White House meeting earlier this month, Micheál Martin hit back at the US president, saying disrupting this deeply integrated relationship benefits no one. And amid the chaos and uncertainty of Trump's tariffs, will Irish business be forced to export elsewhere, or will the government need to provide economic supports for the industries that are affected? Well, now, we'll be talking to Dara Calleary, Minister for Social Protection and Rural and Community Development, in a moment. But first, with me in studio is Tom Keogh, CEO of Keogh's Crisps.
Morning,
Good
Pat.
morning. Are you affected by this, Tom?
We are. Yeah, the American market is a very important market for us.
What's 1, 2, 3 in terms of market prominence for you?
Well, America is our biggest export market. We're exporting to about 22 countries, but America is number one. Accounts for about, say, 15% of total volume, but it's growing really fast for us. Has been ever since we kind of came out of COVID. So up to this, we've been paying about a 7% tariff on our goods going into the American market. So obviously, we woke up this morning to the news of 20%. So yeah, it will have an impact, but it's not something that we can't deal with.
Okay, it's not something that you can't deal with.
Yeah.
So do you have to cut your cloth? Do you have to narrow your margin, or is there something else innovative you can do?
Yeah, well, I think the negotiations start now. I woke up this morning to emails from American customers wondering what we were going to do to help. You know, this wasn't an ultimatum being given to us. It's what can we do to help the situation? And I suppose if you look at it on at the big context, like in America, food has become very expensive, especially over the last 3 years. There's been huge inflation there in food. And I think if anybody sat in a restaurant in America over the last recent times, they'll see that you nearly get a shock when you get the bill.
It is a shocker. Food and drink. Shocker.
Shock, yeah. And so I think just in that alone leaves capacity for us to compete. Also, when you look at the dollar. So, prices that we set with customers over there 3 years ago, in reality, they're buying the product for 13 to 15% cheaper today than they were 3 years ago. That alone can afford to cover the cost of tariffs today. You know, so I think we're in a very strong position when we start these negotiations.
No panic from your point of view.
No panic. I think we're well able to trade through this, and like we've dealt with much worse than this. Like 3 years ago, we were dealing with 400% increase in logistics costs into America, which are huge compared to these tariffs, and nobody was talking about that.
Now, have you product on the high seas that's going to arrive in America and face these tariffs? In other words,
we do.
Stuff that's already promised and in fact sold.
Yeah, we looked at that. We actually looked at that yesterday. We have 3 containers. I think they're arriving in New Jersey today or tomorrow. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But we're also sitting in a nice place because St. Patrick's Day is kind of one of our busiest seasons in the American market, and we would have been shipping a lot of stock over there from December through January and February in order to make that deadline for St. Patrick's Day. So we are stock heavy.
Now, I was recently on Emirates on my trip to Australia and had the pleasure of eating Keogh's Crisps on Emirates.
Brilliant.
I mean, that's another part of your success story.
Thank you, Pat. Yeah, the airline industry has been very good for us. We developed a very innovative product for the airline industry. And last year, 300 million passengers traveling aboard planes with Keogh's Crisps on board. From Emirates to Singapore to Delta to American. Yeah, it's a great part of the business.
Yeah. Now, I detect no great gloominess on your part. So, from your point of view, you can weather this storm and survive and thrive, perhaps. But the same kind of factors should apply to many of the food industries, shouldn't they? The beneficial dollar and the other factors that you mentioned.
Yeah, it's across the board. And, I think, situations like this, it's great to get a challenge in a business because, it really gets people around the table. We focus, we double down. People get innovative all of a sudden, which is great for business, and I think the world is also a very big place. So, for example, the Canadian market right next door to America, our inquiries from Canada are up. You have 40 million people there in, very few urban centres in southern Canada. That's a great market to go after, Yeah. Australia recently started there. Yeah, it's a long way away. The issues in the Red Sea are not helping the shipping there. There's about an extra 3 weeks on transport, but it started very, very well. And I think the Australians might have a taste for our product, please God.
Have the Chinese any taste for?
Chinese and Japan, yeah, we've started trading in China, in a small way, but it is a huge market, and Mairead McGuinness was speaking there this morning about the opportunities in China, and I think she's right.
We'll be talking to Mairead McGuinness later on the program. So you're pretty sanguine about what Trump is doing. I mean, as it stands, you can cope, but if suddenly he gets the hump and decides it's going to be 200% on food, not 20%.
Well, then in that situation, we need to look elsewhere, and look at the big picture here. In my experience, like, Ireland is such a fantastic country to be from when you're trying to export product overseas. We have a great reputation. From a food point of view, we're seen as this beautiful, green, sustainable island on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean that produces really great tasting, quality food products. And we can sell that message around the world, and we have been doing. And we do very well because of that.
All right, so you're not particularly worried at all. How does a humble potato grower become a massive exporting conglomerate?
Well, with blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of support from the Irish consumers. I started that business back in the middle of a recession in 2011. I started with one employee. Today we've 150 in that business. We've about 180 overall. And we're there today because of the support the Irish consumer gave us.
And you're planting spuds today.
We're planting potatoes today. Yeah, we're out near the airport there in North County Dublin. So if you see the tractors in the fields, that's us.
All right, Tom, thank you very much for joining us and adding a little bit of optimism to a pretty gloomy picture. Tom Keogh, who's the CEO of the very successful Keogh's Crisps. Listening to all of that is Dara Calleary, Minister for Social Protection and Rural and Community Development. Minister, good morning.
Good morning, Pat. How are you?
I'm very well. Now,
I wish I could bottle. Could we bottle Tom Keogh and export him globally?
Absolutely. It's great to hear some optimistic noises being made, particularly when we were told, it was reported to us, that the cabinet meeting on Tuesday was pretty gloomy.
Look, it's uncertainty. It doesn't help, and it doesn't help anybody's humour. But the point I've always made, Pat, and Thomas just reflected that there, Irish business has faced, in the last 9 years alone, even stepping back from 2011, when Tom set up his business. So can you imagine setting up a business in 2011, the courage that demanded? Brexit 2016, just when we got out of Brexit, straight into COVID in 2020, the supply chain issues arising from the Ukraine war in 2022 that Tom just referenced, I think, was it a 400% increase in his
the logistics charges,
freight, logistics, and now 2025. And it is all the way through this. Irish business, Irish enterprise has shown enormous resilience, most importantly, Pat, adaptability. And as a government, we will work with Irish business to get them through this challenge too. It is real. We don't underestimate how serious this is. But we now have the first chapter, and I think Bertie Ahern was right earlier. There is a long way to go in this story, but we now have a sense of where we're going in terms of that 20%. We are working in terms of preparing scenarios, working to get experiences from enterprises across the country, just like Tom's, and we will stand by and assist Irish enterprise, Irish business through this.
Now, the question of pharma is being parked for the moment. We don't know where that is all going to end up, and the same with semiconductors. But the food business straight away, and things like whiskey, alcohol exports generally, and food exports are going to be impacted immediately. Many of those jobs are actually found in rural Ireland.
Absolutely, and I'm actually speaking to you from Carlow this morning. I'm just here in our intro office, and I'm about to attend a work and skills event, part of the ones that we're running right across the country. And actually, our work and skills events are incredibly busy, Pat, at the moment this year, with employers with vacancies across rural Ireland. But I'm very aware, and I'll be working with Martin Hayden, the Minister for Agriculture, in relation to a response from food. Martin is actually going to be on a trade mission in the USA next week. He'll be meeting, amongst others, very key people in the administration and agriculture. But when you listen to Tom, you also got to realise we've got a product. We have a very strong product, and in the context of dollar movements, in the context of potential growing markets. So we've got Canada to look at. We've got other markets that we will put resources into, working with Enterprise Ireland, working with On Board BIA to get our food industry through this. I'd also point out, Pat, in his previous term, President Trump put tariffs on food, including on Kerrygold. They got removed then a year later. So the other There's so many unknowns in this. There's an unknown in this as to how long will these
Yeah.
tariffs
And I'm just
last.
wondering, in terms of even trying to do deals with people, such as the unpredictability of this particular regime in Washington at the moment, very hard to cut a deal, a clean deal. There might be deals cut that have all sorts of caveats and for instances and subordinate clauses in case things go badly wrong and the deal becomes soured.
Absolutely, and that's why we need calm. That's why we need patience. That's why we need a plan, and we will work very closely with the European Union in doing that. Commissioner McGrath is in Dublin today. He'll be meeting the Taoiseach and the Taoiseach. I know you've got Mairead McGuinness coming on later. The experience that we have in terms of Brexit, in terms of COVID, in terms of the impact of the war in Ukraine, that will all stand to us now. And we will negotiate our way through this. But the most important thing is that we're calm, that we're unified, that we collect the kind of data that Tom has just outlined there, and that we prepare a response based on data, based on actual information, as opposed to headlines and as opposed to figures that are plucked out of nowhere.
But is there a problem dealing with an administration that is ideologically driven rather than driven by the economic facts?
Well, look, I was just reflecting, and you touched on it there yourself. I had the privilege of being in the States for St. Patrick's. I was in Atlanta and Savannah, and I was struck at the price of food. And there's work done. I saw some work last weekend that the tariffs potentially would add $1,700, apologies, to a US family's cost of living. The president was elected very much with a focus on the cost of living, as you said earlier, a focus on eggs. And I think you saw yesterday on the floor of the US Senate, four Republican senators going against him in relation to tariffs in Canada. I think if these tariffs, and they will, like ultimately, you can talk 20%, Pat, and 10%, 17%, 34%, but at the end of the day, these will affect the cost of living. These will affect the cost of eating, the cost of medicine on the American high street, in every part of it. And I think, we have to work now and be calm and work to ensure that we protect Irish and European business interests, that we present new opportunities to Irish business in terms of potential new markets. But bear in mind that these can change, that these tariffs can change, depending on whatever pressure the president may be under at a particular point. But we also have to drive efficiencies in Irish business as well, and work with Irish business in terms of the cost
Yeah.
base.
Now, some of the text coming in, Europe needs to grow a backbone and stand up to bully boy Trump and his minions. Otherwise, what's the point in being part of the European Union? America makes up 4% of the world's population. It's time to toughen up. That's from Jay. I mean, that's the instinct you have, that you stand up to the bully. But, the realpolitik of all of this, that we are tiny and they are huge, even though we're part of a bigger population geographical grouping in the EU than the United States.
Absolutely, and we're part of the biggest trading bloc in the world, the biggest market in the world. So US companies, regardless of tariffs, would still want to do business with Europe, would still want to do business within Europe. We are still and very much part of the single market. That will continue to make us an attractive place to base investment in, to base, manufacturing in. What we have to do, Pat, is to make sure that within those advantages, we protect our other things that are controllable, our costs of business, our costs of doing business. We're also investing in infrastructure, investing in things that people are very focused on. And we will continue, and Minister Chambers and Minister Donoghue have made it clear that we will continue to invest in infrastructure so that we can protect the advantages that we are in control of. By working within the European Union and in an agreed framework within the European Union, we can do that, Pat, whilst defending our Irish interests. We will get the best deal for Irish business and for the Irish people.
And the question of exporting, this texter says, just back from Thailand, lots of British whiskey, no Irish whiskey aside from Jameson on the shelves, and Bangkok is a city of 17 million people alone. So get going on new markets. Another one.
Since 2011, Irish whiskey has absolutely transformed. There was only one brand back then, and now you see so many brands. And again, as Minister for World Affairs, I'm very conscious that many of our new distilleries, Drumshanbo is an amazing example, but replicated all over the country, are in rural areas, they are exporting, and we will work to protect them.
And I've been to the shed, and it's a great
It's
place,
amazing.
and it's a great tour there as well. We will be talking whiskey a little later on in the programme, but this one from Andrew and Killiney. Keogh's crisps are by far the best crisps in the world, and I've tried many. One of Ireland's very best products, and we have many, many good products which we're exporting. Dara Calleary, Minister for Social Protection and Rural and Community Development, thank you very much for joining us.